The world as we know it has always been shaped by those who possessed extraordinary abilities. From the skies filled with flying heroes to the shadows where stealthy figures move undetected, the universe of Marvel is defined by the might of its superheroes. But what happens when that power is suddenly gone? What if everything you knew about the heroes you admired, the ones who stood as protectors against the worst the world could throw at them, were reduced to ordinary humans overnight? Can they still survive in a world they once ruled? Or is it already too late for them to reclaim their place in a world that's quickly falling apart? This is a question that has plagued everyone who's been following the events unfolding in the Marvel Universe. The twist? This is a new movie or a comic arc. This is something more real than you can imagine, and the stakes have never been higher. Before you dismiss this as just another story of loss and redemption, think about it. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the very thing that made you invincible, the one power you believed could never be taken from you, is now gone. Just like that. And the worst part? You have no idea why it's happening. You spent years perfecting your skills, your body, your mind. But when everything is taken away, what do you have left? And what do you do when your strength, the thing that has been your shield and sword for so long, becomes useless? In this story, we follow heroes once untouchable as they face the reality of their humanity. They're not just facing their enemies anymore. They're fighting against time, against themselves, and against the very essence of who they were. As you dive deeper into this narrative, you'll come to realize that this isn't just about the loss of power. It's about the psychological toll that follows. The heroes are trying to make sense of their existence, searching for answers in a world that seems to be crumbling beneath their feet. How do you cope when the thing that made you special is stripped away? And more importantly, how do you survive in a society that depends on you, but now sees you as just another person trying to get by? The battle has always been external, with villains and evil forces threatening to destroy everything. But this time, the real danger comes from within. The real challenge is learning to live without the one thing that defined them. You might think the heroes would band together, using their wits and instincts to come up with a solution. But that's where the true twist lies. Because the heroes you thought you knew, the ones who have saved the world countless times, are now at odds with each other. The pressure of losing their abilities is straining even the closest relationships. Bonds once forged in the heat of battle are now being tested in ways no one expected. They are no longer unified by their superhuman strengths, but by something far more fragile, their shared humanity. And that's where things get complicated. They now face a world that's lost faith in them, a world that is moving on without them, leaving them behind in the dust. The very thing they were supposed to protect, the people, are now looking at them with uncertainty. Are they still worth following? Are they still capable of leading? The urgency grows as time ticks by. People are beginning to notice that the heroes no longer have the strength to keep the peace, and society is starting to unravel. Criminals, once easily subdued, are now taking advantage of the situation, running rampant as the very system that once contained them begins to break apart. The heroes find themselves playing catch-up, constantly fighting against time as they try to hold on to what little influence they still have. But it's clear something is happening beyond their control, and they can't figure out what it is. Was it something they did? Or is there a greater force at work, one that has been manipulating events in the shadows all along? As the heroes search for answers, they find themselves in a race against time to stop a catastrophe that no one is prepared for. But here's the catch. The moment they thought they had a breakthrough, the moment they believed they were on the right track, everything changed. A sudden twist, an unexpected betrayal, and everything they thought they knew was turned upside down. It was one thing to lose their powers, but this was something darker. A revelation so shocking, so devastating, it made them question everything. Who can they trust when even the ones closest to them are hiding secrets? Could they have been betrayed by someone they once considered an ally? The truth is far more complicated than they ever imagined. And just when you think you've uncovered all the pieces of the puzzle, just when you believe you know what happens next, the story takes another turn, because there's something even bigger at play. Something that could change the very fabric of the Marvel Universe, and not just for the heroes, but for everyone. The heroes are no longer just fighting for survival. They're fighting for something far more significant, the very future of their world. With their powers gone, their lives in disarray, and their trust shattered, can they possibly find a way to not just survive, but to fight back against the forces that are closing in on them? You thought you knew what the stakes were, but believe me, you have no idea just how deep this rabbit hole goes. The answers you've been waiting for, they're closer than you think. But as you're about to find out, sometimes the answers you get are not the ones you were hoping for. Because in this new world, nothing is guaranteed, and everyone is vulnerable. The battle isn't just for power. It's for survival, for hope, and for the very soul of a universe that has always relied on its heroes. But what happens when those heroes are no longer there protected? What happens when they become just as powerless as the very people they once saved? The question remains. Can they survive? Or is it already too late? And here's the chilling truth that will leave you hanging. What if they've already lost a battle and didn't even know it? Stay tuned, because you're about to find out. But be warned, once you know the truth, you'll never look at the Marvel Universe the same way again. As the days pass, the weight of what's happening begins to sink in. The characters we once admired for their strength, their invincibility, now seem like mere shells of their former selves. Their minds race, their hearts pound, and yet, no matter how hard they try, nothing works. The superheroes who once could rely on their powers, their heightened senses, their godlike abilities, are now being forced to confront an unimaginable reality. They're human. They're just like everyone else. And with this newfound vulnerability comes fear. Fear of losing everything they built. Fear of becoming irrelevant in a world that no longer needs them. Fear of facing the consequences of their past decisions. Each of them is grappling with something different, something unique to their own journey. But there's one common thread that binds them all, the uncertainty of the future. Take, for instance, the once invincible figure who used to soar above the city. Is every flight a testament to his power? Now, grounded and forced to navigate the urban landscape without the comfort of flight, he finds himself questioning everything he once believed about his purpose. What does it mean to be a hero when you're not the only one with power anymore? His relationships with those closest to him have begun to fray at the edges. Longtime allies, who once shared a common goal, now eye each other with suspicion, unsure of whom to trust. Some whisper about his inability to lead. Others talk about how his self-doubt is starting to affect his judgment. But there are those who wonder, what if he knew something about this loss of power all along? What if he had some insight into what was coming, but chose not to warn anyone? The tension is building, and every moment spent together feels like a delicate balancing act, a game of chess where one wrong move could topple everything. Then there's the one who once held the power to move mountains, to make enemies tremble with a single glance. Now, the once feared hero is left standing in front of a mirror, staring at a reflection that no longer matches her identity. The loss of her abilities is more than just a physical one. It's a mental and emotional unraveling. She's consumed with guilt, wondering if she could have done something differently, if she could have stopped this from happening. Her every move now feels measured, each action steeped in self-doubt. She's unsure whether the people she once fought beside are still her allies, or if they're harboring secrets that could make her the next target. And that's when the whispers start. Late-night conversations, suspicious glances, and a conversation she overhears about a meeting with someone who had disappeared years ago. Someone who had sworn to never come back into their lives. Was this loss of power part of something much bigger than any of them could imagine? Did the enemy they defeated all those years ago leave behind a legacy of pain and chaos that would come back to haunt them? The web of suspicion continues to grow. An unexpected visitor arrives in town, someone who seems to know far too much about their lives. A face in the past, someone they thought had long since been dealt with, now reappears, claiming to have the answers they're all searching for. But can they trust him? Or is he just another player in a game they don't understand? His cryptic warnings add more layers to the puzzle, suggesting that their loss of power wasn't just a random event. It's the result of something far more calculated, something engineered by forces they couldn't have possibly predicted. But who is behind it? Who stands to gain from the fall of the Marvel Universe's mightiest heroes? At the same time, doubts creep in from the inside. Long-standing friendships are tested, and even the closest of allies are starting to wonder if there's something their team leader is hiding. Their once perfect coordination is slipping, their trust unraveling with every passing day. Could it be that one of them is behind the disappearance of their powers? Could the loss of their abilities be part of a larger scheme, one that threatens everything they've ever known? With every passing moment, it becomes harder to distinguish between friend and foe, truth and lies. The heroes' minds are clouded with doubt, their every action tainted by the uncertainty of not knowing who is truly on their side. But the biggest question of all remains unanswered. Why is this happening? The loss of power seems too coordinated, too precise to be an accident. Did someone orchestrate this? Was there a plan in motion long before any of them realized? And what happens if they can't find the answer before it's too late? As the heroes scramble to piece together the fractured clues, the urgency grows. But time is not on their side, and every moment spent searching for answers only deepens the mystery in the midst of all this chaos. There's one thing that's become clear. They can't fight this battle the way they used to. Their powers are gone, and they can't rely on brute strength or unimaginable abilities to save them. They'll need something much more, something deeper. Their survival now depends on their will to adapt, their resilience, and their ability to trust one another in a way they never have before. They must learn to fight, not just for the world they once protected, but for their own place within it. The odds are stacked against them, and the challenges ahead are more daunting than anything they've ever faced. But there's one thing they know for sure. They can't back down now. The truth is out there, but it's buried deep, hidden behind layers of betrayal, deception, and fear. As the mystery unravels, more questions emerge, and with each answer, another door opens to an even darker truth. They may not have the answers yet, but one thing is for certain. Whatever happens next will change everything. And just as the tension reaches its peak, as the heroes make one final push to uncover the truth, a shocking twist occurs. Something that no one saw coming. Something that changes everything. With everything they've fought for on the line, the final revelations will make you question everything you thought you knew. Trust no one, not even yourself. What if you've been wrong all along? What if the real threat is something far closer to home than anyone realized? The story is far from over. The answers are within reach. But are they what the heroes truly want to hear? Stay tuned. The real battle is just beginning. As the days wear on, the pressure continues to mount. The heroes, desperate for answers, dig deeper into the mystery surrounding the loss of their powers. But it seems the more they uncover, the more they are met with roadblocks. Key evidence that could explain everything vanishes without a trace, leaving them with only more questions and fewer answers. One night, a crucial document containing encrypted files, a document that had been carefully hidden away for their safety, disappears. The entire room they'd stashed in was locked, and no one else had been inside. But when they checked the security footage, it shows nothing. No one entered, no one left. It's as if the document had never been there to begin with. The sense of unease grows as they realize that someone or something is working against them from the inside. But who can they trust now? Who is behind these disappearing acts? And why would anyone go to such lengths to keep them from uncovering the truth? Tensions reach a breaking point when an unexpected warning arrives, a message left on a secure line. A voice they know, but haven't heard in years, whispers a chilling ultimatum. Stop digging or you'll wish you hadn't. The message is brief, but unmistakably clear. Whoever is behind this is aware of their every move, watching them closely, and willing to do whatever it takes to stop them from uncovering the truth. The voice is familiar, one of their own, but the distorted tone makes it almost impossible to tell who it really is. Could it be an ally they trusted? Someone close to them who's been playing them from the start? Or is it someone else entirely, pulling strings behind the scenes, manipulating them all? In the midst of all this, a figure from their past resurfaces, someone they thought they'd left behind forever. This individual, a former ally who had disappeared after a pivotal mission years ago, shows up unannounced, claiming to have critical information that can help them understand what's really going on. But their return raises more questions than it answers. What does this person know about the mysterious events surrounding the loss? Are they a true ally, or are they a threat in disguise, sent to distract them or lead them down a false path? The trust they once placed in this individual is now in question. Can they afford to trust someone whose motivations remain unclear? With every new piece of information, the line between friend and foe begins to blur, and the heroes find themselves unable to discern who is truly on their side. But the obstacles continue to mount. Each new lead brings more complications, and the closer they get to the truth, the more they realize how deep the conspiracy runs. Secrets from their past begin to surface, dark, hidden truths that they had long since buried. One hero, once revered for their wisdom and strength, begins to unravel, their hidden guilt from a past failure coming to light in the most unexpected way. They had known something about this loss of power all along, and the burden of their silence is now threatening to tear the team apart. As they try to explain their actions, others are quick to question whether this revelation was the cause of the events now unfolding. Were they complicit in something darker? Was there a secret plan all along, one that even they had been unaware of? As the pressure builds, the team's cohesion starts to fray. Every move feels like a risk. Every decision weighted with the knowledge that their survival is no longer guaranteed. They no longer operate as a unified force, but as individuals grasping at threads of hope, each trying to find their own way out of the labyrinth of lies they find themselves in. Even their most trusted leader is beginning to show cracks. In their desperation to protect the others, they become erratic, making rash decisions that only fuel the growing chaos. It's clear that something or someone has destabilized everything they once believed about their mission, their unity, and their future. And just when they think they've found a way to break through, to uncover the final pieces of the puzzle, another twist turns everything upside down. The once shrouded threat they've been chasing for so long is revealed to be far closer to them than anyone ever realized. An unexpected betrayal emerges, as one of their own is revealed to have been working against them the entire time. The hero they trusted most, the one who always seemed to have the answers, has been playing both sides. Their ultimate loyalty has never been with the team, but to a much greater and far more dangerous power. This revelation shakes them to the core. The one person they thought was their guiding light is now their greatest threat. But what is their endgame? Why would they betray everyone they once fought beside? And what does this person know that could change everything? The stakes are now higher than ever. Every decision, every step taken could be the difference between life and death, between survival and complete annihilation. With so many secrets coming to light, so many alliances unraveling, it's impossible to know who can be trusted and who is playing their own game. The closer they get to the truth, the more dangerous the situation becomes, and the further they fall into the abyss of uncertainty. But the biggest question remains, what is the true force behind their powers being taken away? And can they stop it before it's too late? Just when they think they're on the verge of finding the answers they've been searching for, a final, devastating twist leaves them reeling. Everything they've fought for, everything they believed in, is suddenly cast into doubt. The real enemy is far more powerful and elusive than they ever imagined, and they've just unwittingly become part of a much larger, far-reaching conspiracy. With the team fractured and divided, with everything they thought they knew thrown into chaos, the stakes have never been higher. The final pieces of the puzzle are slipping through their fingers, and as they race against time to piece together the truth, they realize that the battle they're facing may be much bigger than themselves. It's not just about saving their powers or their world anymore. It's about survival. But with every step forward, they may be walking straight into the very trap they've been trying to avoid as the main characters struggle to come to terms with the devastating betrayal that has just been uncovered. The ground beneath their feet starts to shift even further. The shocking revelation that one of their own has been working against them leaves the group fractured, but as they scramble to assess the damage, something far more unsettling happens. Another person, someone tangentially connected to their world, receives a message eerily similar to the one that had been sent to them. This new development sends a ripple of panic through the team. If their enemies had known about their movements, their actions, and their plans before, how could they possibly be so sure that they were safe now? What does this new person know, and what role do they play in this unfolding nightmare? The message this time is different, but just as cryptic. It's brief, sharp, and it strikes a nerve. It warns them to stop searching, to walk away from the investigation, or face consequences that will leave them scarred beyond recognition. The person who receives it, someone not directly involved in the main conflict, but whose fate has always been tied to their own, is left questioning everything they thought they knew. This new thread begins to weave into the tangled web of lies, mistrust, and fear that has already ensnared them. Could this person have been a silent player in the background all along, quietly waiting for the perfect moment to make their move? Or are they simply another pawn caught up in something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined? The message, however, isn't the only new development. A mysterious, long-lost artifact resurfaces, a relic thought to be nothing more than a legend, a piece of technology that could either unlock the answers they've been desperately seeking or bury them deeper in the darkness. The artifact, said to hold secrets to unimaginable power, is now in the wrong hands, and the team realizes that their investigation into their lost powers has only scratched the surface. The artifact's existence challenges everything they thought they understood about the force behind their sudden vulnerability. It raises questions. Was this artifact always in play? And if so, how does it tie into the larger scheme? If it was the key to unlocking their powers, could it also be the tool that had been used to strip them away in the first place? And who is in possession of it now? This new development complicates things even further. Not only does it raise the stakes exponentially, but it also introduces a possibility that the true enemy might be far more organized, more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. There are whispers of secret factions, organizations that operate in the shadows, pulling strings with a level of precision and expertise that their team simply doesn't have access to. The questions multiply, each one feeding the others in a vicious cycle. Is the conspiracy larger than they thought, or are they just beginning to uncover the tip of the iceberg? And if there is more to this mysterious artifact than they know, what happens when they finally understand its full power? The tension within the group begins to reach a fever pitch. Old alliances start to fracture, and doubts creep into their minds. Trust, once a solid foundation, now feels fragile and tenuous. In the wake of their earlier betrayal, how can they be sure that anyone is telling the truth? The team, once united by a shared purpose, is now splintering into factions, each driven by their own motives. Some believe the answers lie in chasing down the artifact. Others suspect that the only way forward is to cut their losses and abandon their quest entirely. As the mystery deepens, the people they thought they knew, those who had stood by them through thick and thin, are becoming unrecognizable. Complicating matters further, strange things begin to happen in their once safe spaces. Safe houses they relied on for years are suddenly compromised. People they trusted are starting to disappear, and no one seems to know where to turn next. One by one, key allies vanish into thin air, leaving nothing but unanswered questions and the ever-growing fear that they are being watched. But who is behind these disappearances? Are they being targeted by an external force, or is there something more sinister at play within their own ranks? The line between friend and foe grows ever blurrier, and with each new revelation, they're pushed closer to a breaking point as the secondary storyline unfolds. It becomes impossible for the team to ignore the implications of their investigation. Every move they make seems to have a ripple effect, bringing new players into the fold, some helpful, some not, and making it clear that the conspiracy they are tangled in is far-reaching and far more dangerous than they first thought. As they race against time to uncover the truth, they are confronted by the terrifying possibility that the answers they've been searching for might not be what they want to hear. With their safety in jeopardy, their trust in each other unraveling, and new threats emerging from every corner, the heroes are faced with one simple question. Can they survive this, or has it already gone too far? As the stakes rise and the lines blur, everything they thought they knew about the situation begins to unravel. Every piece of evidence, every encounter, every lead that seemed to make sense just a moment ago now feels like part of a much larger puzzle. The feeling of being watched, of being manipulated, weighs heavily on them. Who can they trust, and who is playing them? With so many twists and turns, the audience is left questioning everyone's motives. What happens next could change everything. If they can even make out alive to see it through, the realization hits hard, like a gut punch in the middle of the night. The world they thought they knew, secure, logical, predictable, is slipping through their fingers like sand. It's not just paranoia anymore. Something is wrong, something much darker than they could have ever anticipated. They've been followed, they've been watched for weeks, and they had no idea. At first it was subtle, just a fleeting glance from someone on the street, a shadow moving in the corner of their eye. But now it's undeniable. The strange feeling of being stalked, of being observed at every corner, is becoming suffocating. The weight of it presses down on them, making it hard to think, to breathe, to focus on anything other than the ever-present anxiety gnawing at the edges of their mind. It happened so suddenly, so violently, that they can barely react in time. They receive an anonymous message, a single line that chills them to the core. You're not safe. We're closer than you think. The words, stark and simple, feel like an open threat, as if the veil they've been hiding the true danger has finally been ripped away. There's no hiding now, no pretending that they aren't deep in this, and over their head, caught in a trap they didn't set but now can't escape from. The moment the message comes through, everything shifts. They can't trust anything or anyone, not the allies who stood by their side, not even themselves. The truth seems to blur, a twisted version of reality that feels all too real. The weight of the message lingers in their mind, heavy and suffocating, until they hear it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps outside their door. Slow, deliberate, too careful. It's the kind of sound that sends a chill crawling down their spine. They freeze, holding their breath, praying it's just their imagination. But deep down, they know it isn't. This isn't a coincidence, not some random passerby. Someone is here. Someone is watching. In a matter of seconds, their world flips on its head. The door creaks open just a fraction, enough for them to hear the low, muffled voices from the hallway, voices they don't recognize. This is no longer a case of being in over their head. It's a life or death situation, and they are in the crosshairs. Panic surges through them. Their mind races as they scramble for a plan. But there's no time. Their heart pounds in their chest, threatening to burst from the pressure of knowing that the people they thought they could trust might be the ones who put them here. They've all been playing a game, one they didn't understand until now. They've been too caught up in the details, the conspiracy, the mystery of what's really going on, that they fail to see the bigger picture. The stakes have been far higher from the beginning, and they've been too blind to realize it. The walls close in an instant. They spring into action, grabbing whatever they can find, papers, files, anything that might hold the answers. They've been chasing leads for too long. But now, it feels like the truth is slipping further away with each passing second. The urgency is overwhelming. Time is running out, and as they frantically look for a way to escape, their phone buzzes again, and this time, the message is worse than before. You can't run. You can't hide. It's already too late. Every nerve in their body screams to run. But where can they go? The outside world feels like a ticking time bomb, a place where danger lurks behind every corner, in every shadow. They've seen this story play out in their mind 1,000 times, chased, cornered, and eventually overwhelmed. But somehow, they never thought it would happen to them. They were the ones supposed to have control, the ones who were always one step ahead, who could think their way out of any situation. Yet, now they're trapped in a nightmare they can't escape. The real horror sets in when they realize that someone close to them, someone they thought they could trust with their life, has disappeared, without a trace. No warning, no explanation, just gone. It's not just a matter of being followed anymore. This is personal. They've taken someone integral to the investigation, and now it's clear. They've crossed a line and there's no going back. The people behind this, whoever they are sending a message, and that message is clear. No one is safe. Not even those closest to them. A cold sweat breaks out across their skin. They try to rationalize it, to tell themselves that there's some logical explanation, some way to piece it all together, but deep down, they know there's no explaining this away. This is the beginning of the end. The walls they thought were strong, the connections they thought were solid, are crumbling. Their only hope, if it can even be called that, is to find answers before it's too late. But as the clock ticks down, it feels like every lead they chase only takes them deeper into the web of lies and danger. Every step forward feels like 2 steps backward. In the middle of the chaos, a thought crosses their mind, a thought that sends a wave of dread over them. What if they've been set up from the very beginning? What if everything, every moment, every person they trusted has been orchestrated by an unseen hand, manipulating them, steering them down this dangerous path with no way out? What if they've never had a choice in the matter at all? The questions swirl, each one more terrifying than the last, and they find themselves sinking deeper into a pit of uncertainty, unable to pull themselves out. The darkness, the fear, the realization that they might already be too late to stop what's coming. It consumes them. They're no longer sure who they are fighting, or even if they can win. The stakes have changed. It's not about uncovering the truth anymore. It's about survival. And survival, it seems, might come at a cost they aren't ready to pay. As the shadows close in, one thing becomes clear. They're in this fight alone now. Every answer they thought they had is slipping further from their grasp. And with every passing moment, they can feel the noose tightening around them. The cold, sterile air of the room feels like a suffocating blanket. As they stare at the locked door, their pulse racing. Every instinct tells them to run, but where to? Where could they possibly go when the danger is already so close? The walls are closing in, and the silence is louder than any noise could ever be. They've been chasing shadows for weeks, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. But now, in this moment, everything they've thought they knew, every assumption they've clung to, shatters. It begins with a simple click. The phone buzzes again. Another message, another threat, but this one feels different. This time, it's personal. In a way they didn't expect. It's from someone they trusted, a name they never thought would be the one to betray them. Their heart skips a beat when they read it. I've been working against you the whole time. You're just a pawn in a game bigger than you can understand. It was always going to be this way. The words hit like a blow to the chest. For weeks, they've been working with this person, sharing information, collaborating in their search for the truth. They've been their closest ally, their confidant, their rock. Now, everything they thought they knew about their partnership is thrown into question. They stand there motionless, the weight of the message pressing down on them, every breath heavy with disbelief. Could it be true? Was this person really working against them all along? Their mind races, reeling with the implications. All the pieces they've gathered, all the clues they thought made sense. What if they were part of the setup all along? What if the mystery they've been chasing wasn't just about uncovering the truth, but about exposing them for something much darker? And what if they've been manipulated this entire time? The walls feel like they're closing in tighter, and the feeling of being trapped intensifies. But then, the door creaks open, slowly, just enough for a shadow to fall across the floor. They freeze, every muscle tense, ready to spring into action. The air feels electric, charged with tension. And then, in a voice that sends a chill down their spine, the person they thought they could trust steps forward into the dim light. There's no warmth in their eyes, no hint of the ally they thought they knew, just cold, calculated resolve. I didn't want to do this, the person says, their voice low and emotionless. But you left me no choice. You're too deep in this now. The truth is bigger than you can imagine, and you're not going to like it. Everything starts to unravel at that moment. The carefully constructed web of lies, the pieces they thought they were putting together, falls apart in an instant. The betrayal is raw, the shock of it sending a wave of nausea through them. The person who was supposed to be helping them has been orchestrating the entire situation from the start, pulling strings, feeding them just enough information to keep them going. But it was all a trap. The whole time, they were just being played. The truth they've been searching for, the answers they've been desperate to find, now seem irrelevant. This isn't about uncovering a hidden conspiracy anymore. It's about survival. The stakes have escalated beyond anything they could have imagined. Their mind races to piece together the new revelation. Was everything, from the very beginning, just part of a larger plan? Were they always just a pawn in a game they didn't understand? The mystery of it all becomes even murkier as the realization dawns. The conspiracy is much bigger, much more intricate than they could ever have guessed. The room feels smaller now, suffocating. The threat isn't just external anymore. It's within them, within the very people they trusted. And the hardest part? They're not sure who's friend, who's foe, and who's just playing them for their own ends. The entire foundation of everything they believed has been ripped out from under them, and now they're left alone in the dark, with no idea who to turn to or what to believe. As the tension mounts, the person steps closer, their gaze cold and unyielding. You should have stayed away from this, they say, their voice barely above a whisper. But you had to push, didn't you? You had to know. Now look where it's got you. And with those words, the pieces of the puzzle they've been so desperately trying to fit together seem to shift once again. What if this person isn't the only one involved? What if there's a whole network of people, hidden in the shadows, pulling the strings, controlling everything from behind the scenes? The realization is both terrifying and exhilarating. This isn't just a story about a single betrayal. It's about a larger, far-reaching conspiracy that could change everything. The world as they knew it is on the brink of shattering, and they are standing at the epicenter of it all, trapped between forces they don't fully understand. They're no longer just searching for answers. They're fighting for their life, and every step they take could be one step closer to the truth or to their end. The door slams shut behind them, and they are left in the silence, surrounded by nothing but the weight of the realization. There is no turning back now. The truth, as painful and terrifying as it is out there. But the question remains, can they survive long enough to uncover it? Or will they, too, become just another piece in the puzzle they've been trying to solve? The story has taken a turn, and there's no telling what comes next. The stakes are higher than ever, and it's already too late to stop what's been set in motion. The pressure weighs on like a 1,000-pound boulder, pushing down until every breath feels shallow, every heartbeat louder than the last. The room feels smaller, almost suffocating now. There's no easy way out, no safe space to retreat to. Every corner they turn only seems to lead them further into a trap of their own making. The truth they've been seeking, so elusive, so dangerous, now sits like a ticking time bomb at the center of their life. It's fused dangerously close to burning out. But they can't stop. They can't back down. Not now. Not after everything that's happened. But what if staying on this path means losing everything? They stand at the crossroads, the weight of the decision pulling them in two different directions, each one a different kind of hell. One path leads to safety, possibly. It's an offer, one they've been given in the quietest of moments, from the person they thought they could trust the most. The other path leads to the truth, the raw, unfiltered, terrifying truth they've been chasing all along. But at what cost? They don't know if they can survive that path anymore. They don't know if anyone could. There's a quiet voice in their ear now, a voice they know all too well. It's their closest ally, the one person they've leaned on through all of this. But the words they hear now are not the same ones they've heard before. You don't have to keep going. You're in too deep. You can walk away from all of this, and we can pretend none of it ever happened. I'll make it disappear. You don't have to be a part of this. It's tempting. The promise of safety, the thought that they could walk away from it all, bury the truth and live a life untouched by the chaos swirling around them. But something inside them snaps, a desperate flicker of anger rising like a flame. No, they can't just turn their back on it. They can't ignore what's been done, what's been uncovered, even if the consequences are more than they're prepared to face. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, it all comes down to this moment, this impossible choice. They turn, staring at the person they trusted with everything, their mind racing to figure out if there's even a shred of truth in what they're saying. You want me to forget all of this? They say, their voice barely a whisper, hoarse with the weight of the words. After everything that's happened, after everything we've seen, you want me to pretend like I never started looking for the truth? Like it doesn't matter? The silence stretches between them, thick and suffocating. The betrayal, the conflict. Everything is boiling over in this single instant. And yet, the other person doesn't waver, their face set, the quiet resolve in her eyes almost terrifying its certainty. It's not just about you anymore. They reply, their tone cold, unfeeling. This isn't something you can fix. The truth you're looking for, it's bigger than both of us. If you keep going, if you don't stop now, they'll come for you. They'll destroy everything. The words hit like a punch to the gut, the weight of the threat hanging heavy in the air. It's not just about exposing the truth anymore. It's about surviving long enough to see it. There's a deep, gnawing fear settling into their chest. What if they're right? What if going further means certain destruction? Not just for them, but for everyone they care about. But then there's the other side of it, the truth they've been clawing toward for so long, the one piece of the puzzle they can't afford to leave unfinished. The truth that, if they turn their back on it now, will haunt them forever. They can't go back. They've come too far, and there's too much at stake. They have to face this, even if it means losing everything that I in the midst of this chaos. Another figure enters the scene. Another person, another voice, another layer of complexity. This one is different, though. They don't speak in the same calm tones. Their presence is sharp, aggressive. Their motives unclear. You think you can fix this? You think you can save yourself? The voice is full of contempt, cutting through the room like a knife. You're already too far gone. There's no way out for you. Not unless you take the offer. Not unless you give up everything you've been fighting for. It's another choice, another ultimatum. Every decision they make feels like a step further into darkness. Every path leads to destruction, to a place they don't know if they can survive. Their heart pounds in their chests, the weight of the choices crushing down on them until they feel like they might break under the pressure. What if they take the wrong step? What if they choose the wrong side? They know they can't trust anyone anymore, but who can they trust? Everyone is playing their own game, and they are just another pawn in the middle of it all. But then there's the final moment of clarity, the realization that the choices are not just about survival anymore. They are about something more, a deeper need to stand for something, to fight for the truth, no matter what it costs. They can't keep running. They can't back down. And for the first time in what feels like forever, they know exactly what they have to do, even if it's the hardest thing they'll ever face. But that decision, the one they're about to make, could change everything. It could be the moment they finally break free, or it could be the moment they lose themselves entirely. The tension is unbearable now. The choices are impossible, the stakes higher than ever. And just as they take a deep breath, preparing to make their move, the room goes dark. A sound, something heavy, something dangerous, pierces the silence, and they know without a shadow of a doubt that their time has run out. The question now is no longer about what happens next. It's about whether they will even survive the next few moments. The darkness of the room wasn't just a momentary flicker. It was a warning, a message spelled out in silence and fear. As their eyes adjusted to the faint outlines of furniture and walls, a cold dread washed over them. They were no longer alone. Somewhere in that room, hidden in the thick shadows, was the answer they had been chasing, and maybe something far worse. Every instinct screamed at them to run, to find a way out, but it was already too late. Before they could move, a hand clamped down on their shoulder, firm, deliberate, familiar. It was the one person they had trusted most throughout this entire nightmare. But the look in their eyes when the lights flickered back on wasn't a look of friend or an ally. It was a look of someone who had never truly been on their side. The betrayal hit, like a gut punch, knocking the wind from their lungs. How could they have missed it? Every late-night meeting, every whisper warning, every carefully placed out. It had all been part of a larger game they didn't even realize they were playing. The truth wasn't hiding in some far-off place. It had been wrapped around them the entire time, like a snake tightening its coils while they were too busy looking elsewhere. And now, standing here in the wreckage of their own trust, they realized conspiracy wasn't just bigger than they thought. It was monumental. Names they had once associated with safety, with leadership, with hope, were all part of it. The very foundation they believed they were fighting for was rotten to its core, and as the hand on their shoulder pushed them toward the center of the room, they saw the others step forward, their faces emerging from the shadows one by one. These weren't strangers. They were friends, mentors, teammates, people who had been in the fight with them since the beginning. And yet, every single one of them wore the same hollow expression, the same resigned acceptance that there was no escape, no rebellion strong enough to undo what had been set into motion. It wasn't about protecting anyone anymore. It was about control, about keeping the truth buried so deeply that no one would ever dare to unearth it again. Their mind raced, every conversation they'd had, every piece of evidence they'd found, reshuffling, and reframing itself with terrifying clarity. The warnings, the threats, the shifting alliances, it was all connected. They hadn't stumbled onto some isolated incident. They had uncovered the blueprint of something that had been building for years, maybe longer. The Powerless marvels weren't just collateral damage. They were the first step in a larger plan, a test to see how far they could push the world toward dependence, fear, and ultimate submission. It was never about the loss of power. It was about who controlled what was left. Standing there, heart pounding, they realized the real danger wasn't just losing the fight. It was becoming part of the machine they had been battling against. Their minds screamed at them to do something, anything. But before they could act, the one they trusted, the one who had led them into this trap, leaned in close and whispered words that sent chills down their spine. You were never meant to survive this. It was a death sentence spoken with almost loving cruelty. But even in that moment, Even with every card seemingly stacked against them, a small ember of defiance burned within. They weren't ready to give up. Not yet. The odds were impossible. The betrayal almost too much to bear, but there was still something they had that these conspirators didn't. Desperation. The raw human will to survive, to resist. Even when all hope seemed lost, the betrayal didn't just hurt. It lit a fire. If they had been playing the wrong game all along, then it was time to flip the board entirely. They realized then that survival wasn't about brute strength or secret weapons. It was about resilience, about finding the cracks in the lies and tearing them wide open. They might be surrounded, outnumbered, betrayed by those they loved most, but they weren't finished yet, not by a long shot. Somewhere deep within the labyrinth of deception, there was still a piece of truth unclaimed, a weapon stronger than any power stripped away. And now, with everything laid bare, they knew they had to find it before the conspirators buried it, and them forever. They would have to move fast, think faster, and trust no one, because the world wasn't just broken, it was rigged. And if they didn't fight back, if they didn't find a way to expose what was happening, there would be nothing left worth saving. And just as that steely determination set in, the door behind them creaked open and another figure stepped into the room. Someone they had never expected to see again. Someone who might just hold the final piece of the puzzle or the key to their ultimate destruction. The air was suffocating as the figure emerged from the shadows, their presence crackling with a tension that made every hair on the main character's body stand on end. It wasn't just anyone. It was the architect of their entire nightmare, the person pulling the strings behind every betrayal, every loss, every moment of doubt that had chipped away at their soul. They weren't draped in the villainous grandeur that stories usually reserved for evil masterminds. No, they looked heartbreakingly normal, almost sympathetic, which somehow made the confrontation even more unbearable. As the main character stood frozen between the lines of old loyalty and raw betrayal, the final piece of the puzzle slid into place in their mind, and with it, the sickening realization that everything they thought they had chosen freely had been carefully orchestrated from the start. The villain's voice broke the silence, low and unnervingly calm, as they laid bare the entire scheme. The power loss wasn't a freak accident. It wasn't the result of some enemy attack or cosmic imbalance. It had been engineered, cell by cell, mind by mind, to break the Marvel heroes down, to sever their connection to what made them strong and force them into dependency. The ultimate goal wasn't destruction, it was domination. Without their powers, without their identities, the heroes were easy to reshape, to control, to turn into tools for a vision of order that none of them had consented to. It wasn't about chaos. It was about peace through absolute submission, and anyone who resisted would simply disappear, forgotten by a world too terrified to ask questions. Anger boiled inside the main character, so fierce it was almost blinding. They lunged forward, ready to fight, ready to tear down the illusion with bare hands if necessary. But the villain was ready, not with weapons, not with brute force, but with the truth, a devastating recording played over hidden speakers, their own voice promising loyalty to the cause, from a time they didn't even remember, a setup, a manipulation so deep that it had rewritten parts of their memory. The room spun as they grappled with the idea that maybe they hadn't just been fighting the wrong battle. They had been fighting against themselves all along. But it wasn't over. A desperate surge of clarity sliced through the despair. They realized that exposing the truth didn't require overpowering the villain. It required outsmarting them. With one final act of rebellion, they triggered the device they had hidden earlier, broadcasting the villain's confession to every communication line still operating. The truth exploded out into the world like a wildfire, raw and undeniable, shattering the carefully constructed lies. Panic rippled through the villain's forces as their control slipped, but the main character wasn't safe yet. Chaos erupted in the building as loyalists turned on each other, and through confusion, the main character fought their way to freedom. Just when it seemed like they had won, when the fresh air of the outside world hit their lungs and the glow of distant fires marked the collapse of the old regime, the final twist struck. A figure was waiting for them in the rubble, calm, untouched by the madness unraveling behind them. It was someone they had never suspected, someone who had helped them every step of the way. With a chilling smile, they revealed the ultimate betrayal. The villain they had just exposed was only a pawn, a decoy to distract from the true mastermind still in the shadows. Everything, The collapse, the exposure, even the apparent victory had been part of a larger plan, setting the stage for a new kind of control far more dangerous than anything the world had ever faced. And with that revelation hanging in the air, heavy and suffocating, the main character realized the fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning.